This is the podcast for 10xing your income and replacing your W-2. I'm David Lecco. I created a process that's helped people close over 10,000 real estate wholesale deals in the last 7 years in all 50 states. And our guest today is an expert. He's doing deals that are in foreclosure, and they have a very limited time window to find a solution before they actually have their house potentially taken by the bank or auctioned off to investors. And so he has a highly personalized strategy for reaching out and being a free consultant. And for you, these are great leads because there's a very urgent window of when these people will need help. So you're going to learn 6 ways that you can help and truly help somebody who's in foreclosure in this process and build your life towards financial freedom, of course, along the way through wholesaling real estate. All right, everybody, we got Devin Robinson, who made $20,000 on his very first wholesale deal. When was that, and how did you find it, Devin?
Oh, great question, man. So I would say that was March or April of 2021. And it was really an interesting story, super unorthodox. So I was actually perusing TikTok, as any good millennial does. And I came across a TikTok that was like, oh, hey, get into real estate without any money and without any credit type thing. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I joined some Discord. And then I was talking, as I was learning about it, I was talking to my mom. And I was like, Mom, I think I'm going to get into this real estate wholesaling thing. And she was like, that's what I do, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean?
Your mom did this?
No, just wait. And so then she was like, I actually work as an acquisitionist for a hedge fund. So my mom actually worked for Amherst at the time. And so it was really interesting. So I built out this system in the process of like just going straight from Zillow for sale by owner and then going to her. But what's really crazy is the very first CRM we had back then was DealMachine. And so I began doing like from there, just kind of learning, and we would go through and try to pull data and try to figure that out. And it was really clunky because we didn't understand how to do it. We didn't know this, like what wholesaling was, because like I was just going Zillow for sale by owner, negotiating with them, and then shoveling it to a hedge fund, which at the time was like a really hot thing, a really hot market, and a really hot way to do it. And then quickly that like crashed and burned. So then I actually had to learn what wholesaling.
What do you mean crashed and burned? What exactly do you mean?
So yeah, November 2021 is when all the hedge funds stopped buying. So we did, and this was really kind of crazy. My mom, she didn't give us any kind of special treatment. She was buying just like anybody else was buying. As far as the hedge funds, and we did like 70 deals in the first 6 months because we were going and negotiating with these people on Zillow, and then going to the hedge fund and just like milking that source. And then when they stopped, I had to actually learn what wholesaling was, because like that's not wholesaling, right? Like that is a method of wholesaling, but like I had to learn how to go directly to the motivation, either through driving for dollars or cold calling and texting, and learning exactly what that looked like, because that was not part of what we were doing. And so
you were just looking at properties on the market,
on like for sale by owner on Zillow. And then like the hedge funds were buying so high that it ended up being like, it had actually worked. And we did a ton of deals that way. And then once they stopped buying, because the market was going downhill pretty quickly in between like November. So between April to October of 2021, we did like 70 deals. In between November and February, we did only like 4 deals. And so like I had to lay off all of my staff. It was a huge learning experience for me in that time. And it's interesting. I wouldn't say it was a failure, because like I learned a ton. If it wasn't for that, we probably would have been doing the wrong model, riding the wave of the economy at the time. But then it forced me to stop and evaluate like what the heck is actual wholesaling? What is like, how do I go and build this out? And so I'm thankful I was in a mastermind called Collective Genius. And through that, I was able to just honestly take like the next 6 months to put my head down, build out the systems and processes necessary to actually do wholesaling well. And so what does it look like to have the systems and processes behind, if I do drive for dollars and then come across a lead, like what do I say to them? Because like I built that out, and then it got to the point where I was like, okay, we've got this thing moving. Now we're getting leads and people are actually interested. Oh shoot, I don't have a good sales process to close them. Now I need to establish a sales process. And so learning what that looked like for us. So it was a huge experience for about 6 or 7 months of me just going, this is hard. This is like very, very difficult. I'm in this and I feel alone, but it's worth it because one, it's real estate. And two, like I just knew that it was going to be something that I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing and creating and scaling impact through it. And so, it was a really interesting journey getting to kind of where we are today, where we do a bunch of wholesaling and we kind of have the systems and processes in place to do that, but really starting out in an unorthodox way, crashing and burning, learning what it looked like to actually do this, and then building from there. So, yeah, it was a really interesting, maybe like a really long answer to your short question.
Oh, no, I'm intrigued. So have the hedge funds started buying again now in 2023?
Really interesting. We actually have started to get some offers in, like some offers on some of our houses that we have, which is interesting. And they're not too bad of offers. They're pretty like sight unseen. I think we got like an 86% like ARV offer on a sight unseen house. And I was like, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's great. For sure. After repair value, did it need repairs?
The house that they put an offer on?
Yeah.
Recent one? So we actually ended up putting it, so just depends on like kind of the method that we're doing, but we actually put that one on the market and they put an offer on it on the market like that. And it was in decent condition. It was almost like, I know people, we can wholesale to cash buyers, but also we do a lot of wholesaling to both cash buyers and also on the MLS. And so it was one of those that it was in good enough condition. It wasn't fully updated, but it was clean. And we put it on there and then they made the offer from there. That's probably the only way we've seen a bunch of offers yet so far from the hedge funds. I did have a ton of relationships, but through that up and down cycle, a lot of those relationships, those people got laid off. And so now we are going to look at what it looks like to pull back in, like see if they're buying again and then build those relationships, because at the end of the day, like they can close quickly. And I think we are moving into an age where like, I think if we get to like under 6% interest rates, they're going to start flooding again. And so we'll see what happens with that. But I can tell like right now, because I think the rates as of today are like 6.6% and they're already starting to come back. So I can just imagine what happens as they go down more. That'd be really interesting.
So yeah, Amherst is a hedge fund I haven't actually heard of too much before. So I was really excited to hear you say that. Yeah, I actually just did an episode about hedge fund buyers and who they are, where they operate. And a lot of the source of my information was from the Collective Genius Group, where you got to be doing 100 deals per year to be in there, right? So that's like a serious group.
It's a crazy group. It's cool though.
There was a post online that said, what hedge funds are you guys selling to? So I didn't see Amherst mentioned on there. And I love hearing that you found luck from them because I didn't include that in my episode. So where does Amherst buy? Do you know?
This is kind of crazy. So Amherst during 2021 was like the biggest buyer that I even knew of. And I know they have like 25,000 houses that they own now. And so they buy, I live in Charlotte, and I know that they buy in Charlotte, they buy in Tennessee, like Memphis, Nashville. They don't buy a whole lot in Texas. I mean, they buy in like, I had a list of probably like 25 markets that they bought in. So
well, anyway, anybody listening can go, find the website. They have a website, right? If you want to sell them a house, you can go Google them. So that's great. Yeah. So you had to learn how to find truly motivated sellers rather than just the people who already listed their house for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, have you built back your business to the same level it was at before?
Yeah, and it looks different now. So, and it has to look different now because there's no hedge funds. And hedge funds are really interesting. They'll buy quickly, but they like to cap what your limit you can make is. And so can't go over 20,000 with a lot of them. And so being in the Collective Genius, as I'm sitting there, I remember sitting in this meeting in one of our breakout or one of our rooms, and this guy, Michael Frankie, got up and started talking about foreclosures. And in his conversation about foreclosures, this was his very first one. This was like in the room. I came in second for the belt and he came in first and then he went and talked on like the main stage because it was just that good.
The belt that you get for having the best presentation.
Yeah. I got one right there actually.
Oh, let's see it. Oh, okay.
I think it's because we're like mixed, like the little half and half. It's right here.
Okay. All right.
So.
I see it. Yeah.
But yeah, so he got that one. And that actually like transformed our business. And so what we decided to do was go directly to foreclosures. And so we do that at scale now. But we also do it in a fairly manual way. And so we actually came up with a system, especially with Michael's help, came up with a system to be able to go directly to the foreclosure attorneys' websites and pull that up-to-date data, because those attorneys have to, by law, broadcast when they've been given that case. And so typically how it happens is a bank goes into, starts the pre-foreclosure process. And because there's so many pre-foreclosures that happen, they don't have the capacity to take all of these pre-foreclosures and kind of file them and then put them through the process. And so they hire local attorneys to do that. And so I found a way to be able to go and find all of the listings that our local attorneys have. And then I got really granular with like having our virtual assistants every day, like go in, scrape that data, add it to a list, and then be able to make it really accessible for our team to be able to contact them through either, like, so I have cold callers that contact them. And then I have our team will actually, like my sales team will actually send like text videos from an iPhone to them. And it's hyper personal. It creates a ton of impact. People feel really valued and heard and seen because we do it that way. And then it also leads to us getting just like huge deals because like foreclosures are really interesting.
Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom.
It's sure it's about money only because they're behind, but their situation and the solution isn't generally about money. And so for us, we step in and we get to know them. We try to give them a ton of value. And typically, it's not even monetary value. It's value in helping them to enter into the next season of life for them in a very comfortable way, in the way that they want to be. And that also is that often is rewarded to us monetarily. And so like our deals skyrocketed when we stopped talking about here's how much we can give you for your house, but more towards how can we be helpful for you in your life in this season and what you want to move towards. And so it was really interesting as we made that shift, focused on foreclosures, and then moved into the direction of being a lot more service oriented to the seller and how we could do that. And so it's been really cool.
Okay, so is this theoretical or are there actually other solutions you're providing other than buying their house?
Oh, no, not theoretical at all. Yeah, no. So it just kind of depends. So it depends on the method that you're able to do with them, right? So granted, I know we're talking about wholesale on here, but we do like a lot of installment methods. We do a lot of subject to stuff like that are able to help that person to either, if they didn't have equity in their house, to be able to get some money out of the house by us paying them, which they wouldn't have been able to do. And then a lot of times we help people to find the next place they go to, pay for a security deposit, pay for a mover. Actually, I have a deal we had a deal in foreclosure. It was a lady in a place called Huntersville, North Carolina. The house, her husband was 2 years old when he passed away. She was in a convalescent home with no legs, which is essentially like a long-term hospital with no legs. And so she couldn't really do much. So we went in and we did an estate sale for her house. We moved all of her stuff in a storage unit, paid for 3 months in the storage unit, set up a trust for her because if we would have put that money in an account, the convalescent home would have taken most of her money. And then she wants to move to Florida. So we're paying for a moving service to move her stuff from the storage unit to the house in Florida that she wants. She's still going to make $150,000 on it. The house is worth $650,000. We got it for $297,000. And then when we flip it, we'll make over $200,000. Now, that's a flip, right? But that could have also been done at a wholesale. We could have got rid of that house for $450,000 and still made over $100,000 on the house. And so we provided a ton of value for that lady. We were able to move her, take care of her situation, take care of her legal fees. Like David, I went to court twice in front of a judge to help probate a copy of the will because the will had gotten lost in the mail. So like, because of the service that we provided for her, she was happy. More than happy making what she made. She told us she had bigger offers, but like the value we provided is what got us that deal. And if we would have done a wholesale, we'd have made 100. But we're gonna flip it. We're gonna make, I think, like 260. So like different, but yeah. So like that's a very tangible. This is how we do the value type thing.
That's a great story where you did the storage unit. You helped her with her will. You really went above and beyond, more than just buying her house. And so it actually was obvious she appreciated that because she went with you, even though you weren't the highest offer. I'm curious, when you know that somebody is in pre-foreclosure because you have found the public information, what's your outreach look like? Is it ignoring the fact and just kind of saying, hey, do you want to sell your house? Tell me about that.
Oh, this is a great question. And I think this is what also sets us apart. So when we talk to somebody and when we leave a video and we do all these things, we go,
Wait, you leave a video?
yeah. So this is part of the process. So do you have an iPhone, David?
Of course.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Now, when you get a green bubble, like, what do you think?
Scammer.
Like when you get a text. Yeah. Okay. So you get a green text and text is green. It's a scammer, right? And so
Could be.
For us, all of my salespeople have iPhones. So they have iPhones and they send text videos to those leads. Once we verify a number, they send a text video to that lead and become like hyper empathetic. So where everybody is going, hey, you're in foreclosure, you need to sell your house fast. We're like, hey, David, I see the bank has had set up a foreclosure on your property, and we think the process in which they do this isn't fair. I'd love to be able to get together with you, talk to you and walk you through some options to help you to keep your home. We have 6 options to help you to walk through that and keep your home. And so if you'd like, please give me a call back or a text. I'd love to be able to chat with you and see if we can be helpful for you. And so for them, like, they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, I've had grown men like in the military, like respond and be like, I cried when I got your message because it felt like you actually. And so for us, like, we take a hyper empathetic approach. We walk them through options. Typically the options eliminate themselves because it's like they can't really keep their home, because like the only real options to be able to keep the home would be like loan modification, pay it off, bankruptcy, a couple other things. And typically the natural option for them is to sell the property, either because once it's filed with the attorney gets it and it's got a court date, very slim chances for them to either pay it off, because in North Carolina, they're within like 21 days. So, or 21 to 30 days from their auction. So they've got a very slim chance to either be able to pay it off or to be able to reinstate it. And sometimes the only other option is bankruptcy, but typically people don't take that option. So it's been really cool as we do that and be able to help those people. We come from a very empathetic, solution-oriented approach. And so, yeah, that's the next thing we do when we get that information.
So by the time you see the public information, they're typically going to have 21 days to figure out a solution. So it's very time-sensitive data. And do you get their number and you text them a video of yourself, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll give their number. We'll text them.
Yep.
I mean, the data we gives a ton of numbers. It gives relatives numbers and associates numbers. It's crazy. And so we'll get that information and we'll text them and like I have now, granted, like, I know I've been doing this and we've got a bigger team. So we do this in 3 different states. And so I've got a caller for each state. And then like when it comes to the videos, we call the people that are like either verified numbers or people that have or have like expressed more interest. So we make sure like the video aspect is an extremely personal touch that definitely sets us apart from other people.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason why it's only 21 days is North Carolina is a non-judicial foreclosure process state, which means it doesn't have to really go through court. They just set a date for the auction, basically, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you want to know how your state operates, basically the entire West Coast is non-judicial. The only states in the middle that have like a longer process would be North Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Louisiana. And then pretty much all the top east, like the Northeast, is all lengthy judicial process, and then everything else besides Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana. Yeah. So,
and it's really interesting too in North Carolina. This is my favorite thing. I think North Carolina is one of the only 5 states that has a redemption period. So in essence, that house can go to auction, and then the seller by law after the auction has 10 days to either pay it off or like pay off what's owed or sell the property. What's really unique is we'll get houses under contract in that 10 days. And then after that, so then we actually will talk to people like within that 10 days. Hey, we know your auction is over. You still have hope. Because what we can actually do as investors is like, let's say an auction goes, and then on the 10th day, I can go and outbid the previous bidder, and that extends my timeline another 10 days. So that same house that we were just talking about in Huntersville, I went and I bid again. I bid so often to extend the 10 days because we had to keep going back to court and doing all these things that I started bidding one LLC against another LLC, my own LLCs, to be able to make sure that it kept going kept going. And so that auction happened in July, and then we closed on it in October. So the auction happened in July, and we closed in October. So it was really interesting, and I love that about North Carolina.
Yeah. So that's a really great dive into the foreclosure process I wasn't expecting. Is what are the 6 solutions? Again, you said they could, restructure their loan, but you can really help them with that. They'd have to work with their bank, right?
So we just talk to them and we go, hey, like, which option is going to be best for you? Like, we can't do this, but we can point this in the right direction. We get on the phone with their lender with them. We provide like a ton of value that produces a whole lot of trust. I've had people who in the beginning, like, we help talk to their lenders. We actually help them to get a loan modification through their lender, or even start that process of a loan modification. And then they came back to us later because they remembered the help that we had, or that we gave.
Right.
So these 6 options that we typically walk people through is, you can get, have you tried a loan modification? Have you tried to get a personal loan from a family or friend? Have you tried to be able to reinstate it? Have you tried, and we typically don't suggest this, like bankruptcy, and we walk through the options on that. We talk to them about other things to be able to help to keep the equity in their home. Like, have they thought about bringing in somebody that could possibly rent it out to them, like pay off what's owed and then rent it out from them? Can they so something like that. Have they thought about getting together with an agent? And a lot of times, like, as we're talking through this, they're like disqualifying each of them. Like, they
disqualify themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get to the cash offer, which is the last one. And then, like, we're like, hey, look, listen, at the end of the day, like, I don't want this for you. I know you don't want to do this. I want to help you to keep your home. Let's get on the phone with your lender. But have you thought about a cash offer for your property? And so then, like, we'll get on the phone with their lender, and their lender will be like, no, you don't have time to do this. And then, like, I'll get off the phone with him and go, dang, David, like, that sucks. I was really hoping that your bank would be able to help you.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to reach out. So I appreciate hearing all the 6 options you guys go through.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then it's like, because then, like, the bank disqualifies it, right? Like, the bank then is the enemy, and I'm their best friend. And then I'm like, you might want to consider selling it. I know you don't want to do that, but as we walk through these options and the bank told you, it might be the best option for you. And so we just deploy like a ton of empathy throughout this process, because at the end of the day, like, when it comes to foreclosure, the motivation is so strong, that if you actually get a hold of them, you win. Like, right? Like, if you actually get a hold of them, and I'm not saying like you win in that, like, you got it. But like, if you actually get a hold of them, you're most likely going to be the one that gets that deal, not anybody else. So we try to make sure that we provide as much value as possible in that process.
So one of the old things I've heard from people that did deals a long time ago is that the foreclosure process goes through, and then the bank owns the property, and they call it REO deals, right? It's like real estate owned by the bank or something. I don't really hear a lot about that anymore. So can you put your take on that as to why I don't hear about that?
That's a great question. I think the biggest reason why you don't hear about that is because of the lack of foreclosure. So, like, historically, after 2008, there was, I don't know the exact number, but like 10 times more foreclosures than there are currently. So historically, we're at an all-time, like almost an all-time low, but we still are up from the we're up.
Yeah, there's still like 30 properties that get auctioned every month here in Austin, right?
Only 30?
Yeah.
You said 30?
So.
Oh, okay. In Charlotte,
in this little county, Austin's not a huge city.
Oh, okay. In Charlotte, I think we have about, so we put in about 1,500 records between North Carolina and South Carolina as a whole into our system. So, like, that sounds about right, 30 in Austin. And so we're still at historical lows. So because of that, REOs were super popular because they would go to auction and nobody would buy them. There were so many houses that people weren't buying them, so then they'd go back to the bank, because when a house goes to auction, the first, like, if it goes to auction and nobody bids on it, the bank puts the first auction in or puts the first bid in, and if nobody outbids the bank, then it goes back to the bank. Then it's a real estate owned property owned by the bank. But the reason why we don't see as many anymore is because there's so much capital sitting on the side from institutional buyers and cash buyers that these banks are all getting bid on, and so they don't go back to the bank. But the ones that don't get bid on then go back to the bank. So we've seen plenty go back to the bank, not nearly as much as you used to see in 2008 or 2009 when there was just a ton of foreclosures happening. And that's why you don't see them as often.
And once a bank owns it, they don't really respond to like investor outreach. They typically will eventually just list it with an agent that they work with, right?
Yep.
And then that's how it
That's
goes.
exactly right.
So,
Unless you have some kind of like in with the bank, which like if you do, like let me know. Like unless you have some kind of in, they're not selling them like that. They're listing them with an agent and getting what they can.
gotcha. Are there any other types of leads that you guys work, or is it mainly the foreclosure process?
So for the past year and a half, all we've done are foreclosure leads. Now, it's been our average deal size is significantly higher because of it. And so there's been no reason. So for me, my mindset has been over the last year and a half, I get free data from the county, and then I'm going and I'm paying to skip trace it. And then I have my team do a lot of the manual work from either like door knocking or sending the videos and calling and doing those things. And so I don't have to pay. Now, mailers like adds onto it. If you do mailers through you guys, like that would be significantly better if we did that. We just hadn't run into a time where we're like, we needed to do that. But
Yeah,
we actually,
You got good things going.
Yeah. So for us, it was like, I didn't see a huge reason in spending a whole lot of money in marketing when we didn't need to. So our ROI is like out of the roof because all I'm paying for is VAs at this point. And so I think like that's a really good way for people to get started, because people are always like, oh, how should you get started? Like driving for dollars is really, really great. I think there should be like two parts of it. Go and grab the data from your county, go door knock these houses from that data that you get. And then at the same time you're doing that, drive for dollars.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, door knock the people who you've pulled from the county because it's so critical. They only have 21 days or less, depending on when you pulled it.
Right.
Yeah. So
and
door knock.
Answering their phone. They're answering their phone because they don't answer their phone for us. They probably have credit cards calling them, car payment calling them. They're not answering their phones, but they're home. And so going and knocking on the door is going to be significantly better. And then at the same time, do the driving for dollars, do those things that get you more leads to build that up. But the closest to the money, we call it what's close to the money. The closest to the money is those people who have the highest amount of motivation, which is the foreclosures.
Right. Devin, you have so much to give. This is a great way to end. If anybody actually has DealMachine and they have the list of foreclosure leads, you can upload them and then reverse drive for dollars. So the app will guide you to drive by all those houses that are in foreclosure so that you can take the most efficient route and knock on all those doors. And if you guys don't have a trial, you can get one at DealMachine.com/pod. And Devin, do you have a social media account where you post anything?
Oh, yeah. I guess I post a good amount on Instagram, Devin.Robinson1. Yeah. And then like I just have and then again, like I have a Facebook group that I don't sell anything out of at all. Like it's just
what's the group?
As much value as I can. You can go to realliferei.com and it'll take you straight to that group. But it's called Real Life REI. So like real life real estate investing. There's a bunch of people in there that aren't investors that want to learn about it. And it's relatively new. I just want to give as much value as I can in there. So yeah, it's realliferei.com.
Well, thanks so much. You're a great storyteller and you've been a great guest.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. No, this has been fantastic. And I've enjoyed following you over the years, man. Super thankful for the product that you've created, as it was the very first CRM we used in our business. And so really cool, man. I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Is your mom doing okay since the hedge fund stopped buying?
Yeah, she works for me now. So she...
oh, nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's amazing.
She feels it. Yeah, I'm really thankful.
Well, thanks, and I hope you have a happy holiday and a great new year, Devin. And I will look forward to publishing this episode.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.